Here, you have a live mic.
My balance is bad. There you go. See the sheriff. Face is not very tight. That's an opportunity to do that.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Class Reunion Day, right? You only do this once every 100 years, so we're going to make the best of it. It's also take your former elected official to work day. So Commissioner Solis, Commissioner Fiala, come up here. We're going to do a swap. It looks easy. It looks easier from those seats, right? Listen, we are so thrilled to have everybody in here. I mean, as you look across this room, this really is a who's who of Collier County. But more importantly, you're here representing so many people. And I don't want to pick, specific people out of the audience, but obviously look around. You've got, every former commissioner that goes back, not 100 years, except for Commissioner McDaniel. He's about 98. But, you got Mike Wynn here, who's representing so many incredible employees who stepped forward during the hurricane. You've got the chamber represented by Michael Dalby. I mean, I could just go on and on. Stock Developments here in the House with, all their leadership team sitting there, Claudine. And I mean, as we normally don't get this kind of crowd. So we've got a lot of great things to read, and we want to celebrate Collier County. There's incredible artwork in the back that talks about our history. So having said that, like we always do, first of all, please shut off your cell phones. We don't need to hear the Rocky theme, if your grandma calls or something like that, which we often do. But is our pastor here? Yes. Okay, so let's start with prayer. And then the Pledge of Allegiance today, you hardly ever hear her voice. Terry Lewis, who is the most dedicated employee, we speak too fast, she types even faster. She is going to lead us in the pledge right after the prayer.
It's an exciting day. We're so happy to be here. Let's pray together. Our Father, just a century ago, chickens wandered the free streets of this little fishing village, and hardworking, humble people did what they could to carve out a niche in this often hostile environment. They labored long toward a vision of community where people could be free, prosperous, and glad. 100 years later, we acknowledge their faithfulness as we endeavor to build upon their legacy. We celebrate what they have done, knowing that we have a tough act to follow. Like those who've gone before us, we want to build community where our citizens can wander free without fear for themselves or their children, where there's room for the prosperous and the poor to pursue happiness, and where ancient values of mutual respect and cooperation will persist to proliferate freedom. We resolve to continue fashioning this community as a beacon of hope and freedom to a nation where the lamp of liberty may have flickered or gone out. We join this effort together, continuing in your strength as we pray in the name of your incarnate love. Amen.
Amen. Lois?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, that sounded good. That sounded robust. Did you feel it? Are you feeling it? All right. Okay, Ms. Patterson, I know we got some official business, and then we get to the good stuff, the fun stuff.
Yes, sir. We're going to start with the approval of today's regular consent and summary agenda as amended. I'm going to read the changes into the record. First, move item 16A18 to 11C. This is a recommendation to approve an economic development agreement with PFPI OZ LLC, PECUS, for the proposed Project Centro for reimbursement of up to $788,878.56 in actual expenditures for sanitary sewer, drainage, impact fees, and building permits for constructing a mixed-use development headquarters in the Golden Gate City Economic Development Zone, finding that this applicant is a target business qualifying for the incentives set forth in the GGEDZ ordinance. This is being moved to the regular agenda at Commissioner Saunders' request. Move item 16A13 to 11D to be heard no sooner than 1 p.m. This is a recommendation to approve the payment of $1,650 to the River Oaks Homeowners Association for 5 years of unpaid assessments for Lot 44, Block A of Palm River Estates, Unit Number 7, according to the plat thereof recorded in Plat Book 12, pages 28 through 30, Public Records of Collier County, Florida. This is being moved at Commissioner McDaniel's request. Move item 16F2 to 11E. This is a recommendation to approve a second amendment to vacant land contract between Collier County and David Lawrence Mental Health Center, Inc. that extends the approval period 1 year due to an unexpected delay in finalizing the rezoning of the underlying property. The time to obtain the necessary site development plans. This is being moved at Commissioner McDaniel's request. We have several time-certain items. Item 11A to be heard immediately following 5A. This is a recommendation to approve the county manager's implementation of 1 additional personal leave day for all county employees. Item 13A to be heard at 11 a.m. This is the presentation of the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022. Item 11B to be heard no sooner than 1 p.m. This is a recommendation to accept the after-action report for the 2023 Florida legislative session and provide guidance as preliminary planning begins for the next legislative cycle. And as previously stated, item 11D, formerly 16A13, to be heard no sooner than 1 p.m. This is a recommendation to approve the payment of $1,650 to the River Oaks Homeowners Association. And we will have court reporter breaks scheduled for 10:30 and 2:50. With that, County Attorney.
Thank you, County Manager. Nothing.
Commissioners.
Okay. Any changes to the agenda or any ex parte on
No,
the
sir.
summary or consent?
No changes and no ex partes on the summary.
Mr. Chairman, I have no changes and no disclosure as well.
Okay. Commissioner Hall?
No disclosures at all.
Okay. Commissioner McDaniel?
No changes or disclosures.
Okay. Same for me. No changes, no disclosures. So motion to accept
So moved.
as stated. Okay. So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Next.
Commissioners, before we move on to our proclamations, we do have singers here for the national anthem.
Oh, okay.
Amy, if I might, this information didn't get to you. Here to sing our national anthem, Jillian Lorlano and Marcella Brown from Avow Hospice.
Excellent. All right.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare
Thank you, ladies. Thank you for what you do at Val Hospice. Very, very much appreciated and respected.
Chair,
Okay.
at your pleasure, let's go to the proclamations, and we'll approve the minutes when we're done with our centennial celebration.
Okay. I'm going to get off script a little bit because you got so many, honorable and respected people in the audience here. So I'm going to read a proclamation as the chair, and it's on behalf of everybody up here. But I would say even more importantly, it's also on behalf of those commissioners and those senior leaders that have served. So, and I think we almost have 100% attendance here. So before I read this proclamation honoring the 100th centennial of Collier County, let's recognize people that sat up here. They know how tough this job can be. It's not always a bed of roses, and they served with honor and distinction. And I'm going to start right at the top with Commissioner Donna Fiala. Please stand, ma'am. Ma'am, you have 3 minutes at the podium. No, I'm just kidding. We have also Commissioner Patricia Goodnight is here. Please stand. If at any time you would like to switch places and take, we got a pretty tough agenda, so you might not want to pick it. Yeah, you might want to pick it. Commissioner Penny Taylor, please stand. Commissioner Andy Solis, where's Andy? Commissioner Fred Coyle. You know, Fred, I really respect that. You and Donna, front row, first seat, you know, right there, right in the front, you know, awesome. And Commissioner Tom Henning. I don't know if Commissioner Georgia Hiller made it, if she snuck in on the back, but, you know, we honor her service as well if she wasn't able to be here. We also have former county manager Leo Oakes. I know Leo doesn't want to switch places with Amy. He's enjoying retirement, right? Tell us what's retirement like, huh? It's awesome, isn't it? Neil Doral is here. Doral, right there in the back. And I know we have so many business leaders, and we're going to get to all that. So let's start. I'll read the proclamation, and as I said, I'm reading on this on behalf of all of us and all of those who stood as well. Proclamation says, whereas 100 years ago yesterday, Florida Governor Kerry Hardy created Collier County by signing a bill establishing it as the 62nd county in the state of Florida. And whereas, as Collier County celebrates its centennial and reflects on the importance of this milestone, we honor our founding families for their vision, entrepreneurship, and pioneering spirit. And whereas since 1923, Collier County has built a strong and stable foundation where individuals, families, and businesses can thrive, managed progress and economic development responsibly, and created and maintained best-in-class programs and services for residents and visitors. And whereas over the past century, Collier County has evolved into a world-class destination known for its stunning coastal scenery, white sandy beaches, the Everglades, and a sought-after quality of life often called paradise by its almost 400,000 permanent residents. And whereas the collaborative efforts of the Collier County constitutional officers, sheriff, supervisor of elections, clerk of the circuit court and comptroller, property appraiser, and tax collector have been instrumental in the successful development of our county through their dedication and professional expertise. And whereas throughout this centennial year, we celebrate remarkable achievements from the past century, including the completion of the Tamiami Trail, responsible management of our natural resources, a sound economy, and our collective ability to overcome challenges, including the Great Depression, recessions, hurricanes, and pandemics, with demonstrated resiliency and strength. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Collier County, Florida, that as we celebrate our centennial, we declare the first 100 years of Collier County to be an exceptional success and express confidence in continued excellence in the century ahead. Done and ordered this day, May 9th, 2023, on behalf of all of us and all of you. There we go. Here, stand up. Let's stand up here. We got him. Get in here. What's that? Oh, sure. Okay, now all of you that are retired, but you suffered up here or over there, please come forward and fill in. Donna, Andy, Penny, Leo, get up here. And if I missed a name out there, I apologize. But we'd like to get a picture with all of the.
Chair.
Yeah, let's move that out of the way.
You and I are gonna come unveil that really quickly. We're also gonna invite up the constitutional officers and members of the historical
Well, they're standing
societies.
here. Here, Maria, just grab a shot here too. Well, you can't have too many pictures, right? You can't, right? There you go. We'll get to that. There you go. Come on up. Come on up. Yeah, we're just right up here. Yeah, let's get the elected officials. We're going to do the constitutionals afterwards. Okay.
Waiting for orders. Vertically challenged, right in the middle. That's me.
Ready? Here we go. You're gonna look at me, and then we're gonna look at that camera. Okay, cool. On three, guys, smile. Sir, Commissioner Castro, tilt it for me forward a little bit. There you go. Perfect. On three, Commissioner Henning, get closer to me. There you go. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Plenty more pictures coming. Plenty more. Okay. All right.
Now, if we could have the constitutional officers please come up, and the historians and all the representatives from the historical societies and others come on forward and get a picture.
Who's directing?
I could tell.
Who's that?
That's,
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
also Santa Claus.
Yeah.
He was here for the first one. He was here for the first 10-year celebration. Actually, he was born at that time.
Wow. He was here when they celebrated the 5th anniversary. Yeah.
I think he's got to be 90 plus.
Wow.
Who are all these people? Oh, this is historical.
Yeah, that's sort of the mixture. That's what, yeah. I thought it'd be too much bringing everybody at one time. So. Rob, get on Abe's shoulders. Okay, so we can have a, yeah. Yeah, okay, yes, sir.
He'll come up and whoop you.
Yeah, he might. Yeah.
That's right. Lose your tax exemption. Homestead exemption.
Here we go. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Don't move. We're gonna do a few more. One more. Don't move.
Hey.
Thought they disabled those weapons.
Hey, Sheriff. How you doing? Good seeing you, my friend.
Still playing hockey, man? Yeah.
Have the name?
Yeah.
Comes with
Where are they having that?
the rail.
Oh, yeah.
Zero. Lead sled, shoot it. Bolts up here. Hold 5 guns memory. It's onto the rail. It's got an IR light out on the end.
Dog and pony show today.
10 o'clock. Quarter mile across the lake.
Think of it.
I got it.
Okay.
Lit up like daylight. Light on low. Across the lake, quarter mile away.
Okay, are we ready?
Okay.
Item 4B is a centennial recognition of the Collier County business and tourism community. Whereas on May 8th, 1923, the Florida State Legislature portioned Lee County to create Collier County, Florida's 62nd county. And whereas it was the vision of a local businessman, Baron Gift Collier, that introduced paved roads, electric power, telegraphs, and new businesses to the area, and with the completion of the Tamiami Trail in 1928, unlocked the county's potential as a significant agricultural producer, real estate market, and tourist destination. And whereas, as businesses and the tourism industry have established in our area and grown over the last century, they have fueled our economic health and have helped to provide the county the ability to facilitate programs and services that reach all communities in our region. And whereas Collier County welcomed 1.63 million visitors, generating over $2.8 billion of economic impact for Collier County in 2022, creating economic prosperity and enhanced quality of life for the residents and guests of Collier County. And whereas jobs created by small and large businesses, both for-profit and non-profit, positively impact the quality of life for our residents and visitors. And whereas during the celebration of our centennial, it is the pleasure of the Board of County Commissioners to recognize the accomplishments of our business community, our hospitality industry, our entrepreneurs, our minority and women-owned businesses, our nonprofits, and our major employers. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Collier County, Florida, that as we celebrate our centennial, great appreciation is conveyed to the business and tourism community of Collier County, whose economic contributions and generous community support make this a prosperous paradise for all of our residents and guests. Done and ordered this 9th day of May, 2023. Let's have our business community and our tourism industry representatives please come up for a picture. Thank you.
No, it's Garrett Richter, right? Yeah, yeah. That's, I'll say something.
He was in the Florida House and in the Senate.
Oh, being here. Hey, thanks for being here. Yeah. Oh, hey, Julie. Hey, Denise. How you doing? Hey. I had to give you a shout out. Yeah. Hey. What? What? Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Trust me, you sit up here, you got to have the jokes, right, Mike? Right? He knows. Hey. Hey.
Talking when you should have been listening. What's up with that? Somebody needs to silence their phone.
That's weird. I don't know.
Really?
Did one of you guys turn? Wait, really? Did you turn my phone on? Did you? I feel pretty certain I silenced it. I feel pretty certain. What? I feel pretty certain I silenced it. These jokers over here, you know. Yeah.
No one wants to go short.
Look around, if you're shorter than first, step forward.
Mr. Goodlook, I presume.
Steve and Bill takes it. Stay on my tiptoes.
Stand on the chair.
Make sure you see your camera lenses.
Here we go.
Yeah, I just need you guys, yep, you're right there, just stay right there, I'll work with that. If you can't see me, I can't see you, so if you guys can peek through somebody, in between somebody, I really appreciate it. Here we go. We're gonna do a few, okay? Have some patience. And everybody see me, I can't see anybody right there, that lady right there, I can't see. There you go.
Nancy.
I'm gonna try, guys. Here we go. We're gonna smile on 3, okay? Smile. 1, 2, 3. Alright, don't move. Give me 1 second. And smile. You're good. Thank you.
All right. Hey. Hey, thanks for being here. Hey, yeah, thanks for being here. Hey, guys. Yeah? Amy, I want to say something before you read the next one.
Good.
Oh, hey, yeah, absolutely.
See you again. Okay.
Oh, yes.
He said it's a long story.
Yeah. He didn't have it yesterday. He was in Everglades yesterday. I can see it on him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Chair, while they're moving to their seats, we do have a representative from the business community and from the tourism community to
Okay.
speak after your comments.
Okay. I was going to recognize Garrett, but he's leaving, so that's all right. Yeah, I did, yeah. Sir, floor is yours.
Good morning. For the record, Paul Behrens, Tourism Director for Collier County, and I want to say thank you extremely much for this proclamation and the acknowledgement of the importance of tourism and commerce here in Collier County. It definitely is very, very fitting this particular week because May 7th through 13th is also designated as National Travel and Tourism Week. Designated in 1983, celebrating travel's essential role in stimulating economic growth, cultivating vibrant communities, creating quality job opportunities, and inspiring new businesses, and elevating the quality of life for all communities. None of this could have been done without the incredible talent within the tourism industry, definitely within the CVB. Our Tourist Development Council, many members are here. Without the support of our esteemed leaders here on the bench and over the last 100 years within the Board of County Commissioners, and especially the 35,000 people who rely on tourism for their careers here in Collier County. Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Thanks, Paul.
Hello, good morning. My name is Julie Schmelsley, and wow, 100 years. The significance of that I wasn't quite prepared for as I was driving here. It's both daunting and exhilarating for me. I am the volunteer chair of the Greater Naples Chamber Board of Directors. In this group, many of whom were here today, represents about the last 25 years of the Chamber's leadership. These individuals represent our team, presidents and CEOs of businesses, board members, and board chairmen, spanning the most recent years of our 75-year existence. The word greater in our name denotes that we cover all of Collier County. And the Greater Naples Chamber has been a key partner with the Board of County Commissioners over those many years. From working to find solutions for affordable and attainable housing needs to economic recovery in the name of Opportunity Naples, a strategic plan joint between the Board of County Commissioners and the Greater Naples Chamber. Roles in funding for I-75 and other transportation improvements to providing community leadership in training. And most recently, successfully advocating for voter approval of the penny infrastructure sales surtax. The Chamber and its members are committing to building a great economy for our county and sustaining our county's outstanding quality of place, as we're known. Thank you, commissioners, and all before us for working with us as we look forward to continuing to work with you in the next 100 years. Thank you. Congratulations, everybody.
You know, as I said at the start, this is not only a who's who of elected officials, but also of our business and community tourism leaders. I wanted to recognize somebody else, but this is a superstar and an icon and a community leader, not only in Tallahassee, but here locally, but Senator Garrett Richter, but he's smart enough to do the photo op and then immediately sneak out the door. But if you caught him in the back, he knows how to do it. He knows how to do it. But I think everybody knows just what an amazing icon he was up in Tallahassee, and he continues to perform here locally in the community. So Senator Richter, sorry you snuck in, unless he's out there smoking a cigarette or something. Can somebody check? No, but we wanted to recognize his attendance here today as well. So thank you, sir. Ms. Patterson, over to you.
Okay, Commissioners, we're moving on to item 4C. It's the centennial recognition of county commissioners and county managers who have served Collier County. Whereas on May 8th, 1923, the Florida legislature apportioned Lee County to create Collier County, Florida's 62nd county. And whereas counties represent the oldest form of local government and serve the individual needs of regions within a state by solving local problems with local solutions. And whereas, since their first meeting on July 7th, 1923, at the Rod and Gun Club in the town of Everglades, the Board of County Commissioners has served as the governing body of the county and is responsible for setting policies that protect the health, safety, welfare, and quality of life of our residents and visitors. And whereas one of the most important decisions the Board of County Commissioners makes is the selection of a county manager to implement board policies and to oversee the county's daily operations. And whereas as of the Collier County Centennial, 70 citizens have served as a county commissioner in Collier County. And whereas, including our first female county manager currently serving the board, as of the Collier County Centennial, 11 county managers have served as a chief administrator for the Board of County Commissioners. And whereas, via their collective service to our community, county managers have helped to make Collier County one of the most desirable places to live, work, and play in the United States. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Collier County, Florida, that as we celebrate our centennial, great appreciation is conveyed to the county commissioners and county managers that have served our community in creating and implementing the policies of the Board of County Commissioners, who have dutifully executed their responsibilities and have helped to provide programs and services over the last century that have made our county a destination for all who wish to visit or reside in paradise. Done and ordered this 9th day of May, 2023. We'd like to invite the county commissioners and county managers that are still here up for another photo and a copy of the proclamation.
Suitable for framing. Yeah.
Brad, how you been doing?
See you in a minute.
Yeah, just right here. Everybody get their copy? Okay. I'm not coming back in 100 years for this.
Yeah.
Just take one step to your left, little step to your left.
To your right.
Your other left.
It's government work. No wonder the buildings fall down.
We're gonna smile on three. 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry. Please step this way. Perfect. Thank you. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Don't move. Give me one more second. And smile one more time. We're good.
All right. Thank you. And we're gonna keep moving.
Mr. Chair, I
Yeah.
gave Tom Henning my 3 minutes.
Hey, Leo. How you doing? Good seeing you.
Come on.
Great meeting you.
Hey. He's not gonna get on. Special order. Better write this down.
Next, right? Okay.
We're actually going to receive ourselves 2 proclamations, one that
Okay.
I'm going to read
Oh, that's right.
from the
Okay.
Chief Financial Officer.
Okay.
And then a second that you're going to read.
Okay.
And then after that, before we move on to our presentation, we are going to have Mr. Mullins or his staff just tell the audience about the Centennial Seal.
Great. Okay.
Oh, are you going to go now?
Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead. Oh, it's good. Let's go now.
For the record, John Mullins, your Director of Communications, Government, and Public Affairs, and some questions were asked about the county seal and how it came to be for the Centennial. Luckily, I have the pleasure of leading a very talented and creative staff. And one of those staff members is right behind me, Santiago Arenas, who actually designed this Centennial emblem that you have before you today, which was affixed to City Hall in Everglades City yesterday, and will be affixed to Building F today. Out front. And I want Santiago to come up and explain his design to you so he can get what credit is due for his talent and creativity. Santiago?
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Well, the Centennial Seal came about because on the 50th year of the Collier County Jubilee, a seal was created. The Communications Department met with the museums, with the Collier County museums, and we set to create an emblem that pretty much mirrored the Jubilee, adding some new designs and taking some from the past. Collier County on the top, the 3 stars, that pretty much represent the municipalities here in Collier County. Then we have the icons that represent the first seat over at Everglades City, our fisherman village, are pretty much the roots of Collier County. We have, in conjunction with the Seminole tribe, we recreated a canoe with 2 people on it that was on the Jubilee seal as well. And the one part of the county commissioner seals that's represented everywhere, which is the wild turkey, along with the word centennial and one of and Collier County Pier, which is known by many, along with 1923 to 2023 to represent the 100 years that the Collier County has been established. Thank you.
Excellent, great job.
We're in receipt of a proclamation from Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Patronis of the state of Florida. I'm going to read this in, and they've also provided us this really nice proclamation. Whereas on May 8th, 1923, in Tallahassee, Florida, the Florida State Legislature partitioned Lee County to create Collier County, Florida, 62nd county, and whereas the earliest residents were Paleonidians, of course, who occupied modern-day Collier County over some 10,000 years ago, living amongst Ice Age fauna such as mammoths and saber-toothed tigers. And whereas the Seminoles of North Florida migrated their way to modern-day Collier County in the early 1800s, hunting and living in the cypress swamps of the South. And whereas the first permanent settlement began in the 1870s in towns and communities that would later become Everglades City, Marco Island, Immokalee, and Naples. And whereas Collier County gets its name from Baron Gift Collier, an advertising magnate from Tennessee who became captivated by the land's beauty, resources, and tourism potential. And whereas today Collier County encompasses 2,305 square miles of land, making it the second largest county by size in the state of Florida, as well as bigger than both the states of Rhode Island and Delaware. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Chief Financial Officer and State Fire Marshal of the state of Florida does hereby recognize Collier County's 100th anniversary and celebrates the rich history and accomplishments of this noteworthy Florida landmark that is Collier County. In testimony whereof the Chief Financial Officer of the state of Florida has hereunto subscribed his name on the 8th day of May, 2023.
Excellent. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I thought it was interesting that the legislature took the best part of Lee County and created Collier County. So I just thought that was an interesting fact.
Boy, that's going to be on the paper tomorrow. That's Saunders, S-A-U-N-D-E, District 3. And last but certainly not least, Senator Pasadomo is just a huge fan of ours here in the county. We all got to meet with her a couple months ago, all 5 of us, and just couldn't be more proud to all of us to serve with her and to watch her really ensure that Collier County is a priority, as well as every other county in the state. But it's nice that we have a personal relationship with her, and so very fortunate. And I guess when you're a senator, a little fancier frame, a little nicer, although ours aren't bad either. But I'm going to read a proclamation, a Florida Senator's Proclamation, a tribute recognizing the centennial anniversary of the founding of Collier County. Whereas the area that would become Collier County was settled for thousands of years before the creation of first towns in the middle 1800s, and whereas Baron Collier first visited Southwest Florida in 1911 and began to purchase property in the area throughout the 1910s and 1920s, and whereas Baron Collier offered to assist with the funding of the construction of Tamiami Trail in exchange for the formation of a new county in Southwest Florida, and whereas by an act of the Florida Legislature, Chapter 9362, Laws of Florida, in 1923 as signed by Governor Carrie A. Hardy on May 8th, 1923, Collier County was created in Florida. Now, therefore, I, Kathleen C. Pasadomo, President of the Senate of the State of Florida, do hereby proclaim that May 8th, 2023 be recognized as the centennial anniversary of the creation and founding of Collier County in the state of Florida. Signed, Kathleen Pasadomo, President of the Florida Senate, Florida State Senator, District 28. Here, we'll take a group shot and send it to her. Yeah.
One, two, three.
Okay.
Chair, would you like to, while you're all standing, take a picture with CFO Patronus's proclamation as well? The one that is with the ribbons on it? And before you sit down, you should have 2 framed copies behind you, one for the representatives of the tourism and one for representatives of the business community. And they will be coming up to receive those from you.
And here you are again.
These are identical, or, yes. There you go. Right? These are identical? Okay. There you go. Okay. Take a group shot here. Thanks, Paul. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, we're done for the day. See you in 2 weeks.
Commissioners, if we could get a motion to accept the proclamations?
Motion to accept?
Second. Moved.
Okay, moved, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. That moves us to item 5A,
We still have,
presentations.
I'm not sure if we, did we approve the consent agenda? I don't,
I-
we have a motion?
Yeah, we did.
Did we get a motion?
Okay, I didn't know we had a
Yep.
motion to do that.
We'll double check and make sure we don't have to swing back on that.
Yeah. I think we did in the
Maybe not.
beginning.
We did it.
Yep.
Lost track with all the festivities. Okay. Item 5A is celebrating the 100 years of Collier County and its many communities. And Miss Amanda Townsend, your museum director, is here to present. If you direct your attention to the back of the room.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Townsend, Director of the Collier County Museums. It's kind of interesting to be presenting to you from the back of the room, but wanted to take a moment at the time of our centennial to recognize what an excellent job Collier County has done in recognizing and preserving our history. It's 100 years of this county. And our pre-Columbian history is really kind of short, right? If you're from New England or if you're from Europe, then you sort of look at Collier County and go, 100 years, that's nothing. But if you think about what an amazing job we've done at preserving our history so far, then you can imagine what in several more hundred or 1,000 years that's going to be like. And it's, you saw all those people standing up before you this morning, and our commitment to our history is truly amazing. And we have 5 free county museums that recognize the history in our many communities. And none of those came from any of those commissioners or any previous museum director or even any commissioner. Every one of our museums came to the Board of County Commissioners as a citizen initiative because the people of Collier County value their history and want to see it preserved. And in each time the board stepped up and made the commitment to that preservation. And we absolutely thank the citizens for their faith in us and the board for their support in us. It's absolutely an honor. Also want to take just a moment to recognize the 19 members of the Collier County Museum Division staff. They can't all be here because they're sitting at our greeting desks, welcoming other people and sharing that history. But they do a great job every single day. We were really honored to be able to put together an exhibit for the chambers. And I'll walk you real quickly through a little bit. We often think of Naples as as synonymous with Collier County, but the fact of the matter is that there are many communities. We're 2,305 square miles, as has been mentioned before, the second largest county in Florida. And so there are these small communities that it's important that we remember. Copeland was created as really as a logging town. Chokoloskee is an island south of Everglades City, has a great history, starting as really as a truck farming community, but more like a boat farming community, right? And one of my favorite little tidbits about Chokoloskee is that the Postal Service rejected that name originally, and so the first town name of Chokoloskee was Comfort. And in 1891, there may not have been a whole lot of comfort on the edge of the swamp, but it's a nice little tongue-in-cheek reminder of what some of our pioneers have been through. Ochopee started as a tomato farming community, famous now for the smallest post office in the United States, which was once, in fact, an irrigation shed. And Everglades City, of course, is the birthplace of Collier County. I really appreciate those of you who were able to take the time and celebrate that with us yesterday for our centennial commemoration. Their beautiful, rich history, as many have spoken today and yesterday about the vision of Baron Collier and how that was expressed in Everglades City, and we certainly appreciate their support and partnership in celebrating our history. I should mention, of course, that if you'd like to learn more about Everglades City history, you should visit our Museum of the Everglades, which is the former commercial laundry building there in town. Immokalee is our agricultural community. It's our biggest non-coastal community. Really started with traders and fur trappers and grew to be our agricultural hub for cowmen, and then, of course, later farming, and has grown into what I think is the most dynamic, multicultural, and harmonious community with the most amazing hometown pride that I have ever seen. And if you haven't spent any time in Immokalee, I recommend you do. And one of the places you could spend that time, of course, is at our Immokalee Pioneer Museum at Roberts Ranch. And I said earlier that Naples is somewhat simultaneous or synonymous, with Collier County, and there's a reason for that. It truly is a gem. It was really conceived as a vacation destination from day one, from 1887, and struggled to grow until the Orange Blossom Special arrived in 1927. And then with the coming of the Army airfield in mid-century, of course, the word was out, and the population has been exploding, and Naples has been really glittering as one of our jewels ever since. Our Naples Depot Museum is closed right now for hurricane recovery, but also another wonderful place to learn a little bit more about Naples history is the Naples Historical Society's Palm Cottage, which is on 12th Street. And then we have Marco Island. I mentioned earlier that we don't have a terribly long history since Spanish contact, but boy, we have an amazing, amazing history when you take pre-Columbian peoples into consideration. And there is nowhere better to learn about that than Marco Island, particularly at the Marco Island Historical Museum, which currently has on display the world-famous pre-Columbian, Key Marco cat, which is considered one of the most finest pre-Columbian artifacts ever discovered in North America. That will be on display through 2026. Isles of Capri and Goodland are sort of sister communities to Marco, and they each have their own unique feel and flair. Isles of Capri was developed by Doc Loach, and I loved reading some stories about how hard he had to fight for his community to get a road there, and including at one point suing the school district to assure bus service for the children of the Isles of Capri. And that community still fights hard for their little fishing village feel, as does Goodland. Really charming place, and really is kind of quirky and has carved out a history for itself. Kind of cropped up overnight when families from Caxambas were relocated there in 1949. And again, they have their own mullet festival, Spammy Jammy. They even have their own unique dance called the Buzzard Lope. So really fun community. And then moving on to some of our newer communities. Golden Gate was once called a land scam, and now it is an absolute haven for people who want to get away from the urban life, who want a little more independence, and want to be able to enjoy everything that Collier County has to offer in a more rural atmosphere. And then, of course, our newest community, Ave Maria, isn't even 20 years young yet. But is showing what we can do with our new sort of advanced ways of developing land, and as well, just a beautiful Catholic church there and growing place for families, and as well as the university. So appreciate you taking just a moment to walk through a little bit of our history. It can only really scratch the surface here. We hope that you will join us at some of our museums and take a little deeper dive. This exhibit will be on display here through June, so hope you get the opportunity to take some time with it. And again, it was an honor to be able to provide it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioners, we're going to jump back to item 2B, which is approval of the meeting minutes from April 11th, 2023.
Move for approval.
You got a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. That's what we forgot, was to approve the minutes, not the consent. So, okay. Good. We're on track now.
You're all set.
Too many
We
proclamations.
just didn't want to approve those minutes in the middle of the flow with
Yeah.
the national anthem and the proclamations. So got it all taken care of. Item 7 is public comments on general topics not on the current or future agenda.
We have one registered public comment, Dan Cook.
All right. Good morning, commissioners. It's funny, when I first started coming to these meetings, I would maybe complain about all the proclamations and the stuff that goes on before the agenda items. And now I have a much more of a appreciation for it. You know, I learned a lot from the presentation here. I get to learn a little bit more about the county, and just speaking from the heart, I really appreciate this county. I appreciate the work that you guys do. I appreciate being able to live in a community, in a county that stands up for freedom, protects our liberties, protects this community. And I come to the podium today because just as important as protecting our liberties and our local community is, I think, the situation going on at our southern border right now warrants a conversation about protecting our country and protecting the actual border. You may or may not see in the news right now that Title 42 is going to be expiring on Thursday, and that there are tens and tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of immigrants waiting to come into the southern border right now. And the way that I read the Constitution, it's the president's job to secure our borders and to protect the states from invasion. I think the president is derelict in his duty right now. I don't think he's securing the border as I would like him to do that. So then that begs the question, who's going to secure the border? Who's going to stand up for American sovereignty? I don't necessarily have the answer to that, so I'm here just to express my concern and maybe ask the commissioners and ask you guys to possibly maybe write a letter to the governor or lean on the governor. I read in the paper last night that Governor Abbott of Texas has committed 10,000 National Guard troops to go down to the southern border to help the Border Patrol. I don't know if it's within Florida's purview to contribute to that, but if it is, and if this is something that's of concern to you, I just wanted to express my request to possibly lean on the governor to consider sending Florida National Guard to contribute to that, because I think defending our southern border, defending all of our border is something that affects all Americans, and I think it's worthwhile to reach out to the governor, and especially if it came from you guys, because he's not answering my letters or emails. But in all seriousness, everybody here is sworn an oath to our Constitution, sworn an oath to protect our liberties. So if you can do what you're able to in that regard, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
And that was our only registered speaker for public comment.
Commissioners, the last of our centennial items is item 11A. It's a recommendation to approve the county manager's implementation of one additional personal leave day for all county employees under the direction of the board, including county manager's agency, county attorney's office, and BCC office staff, to be used May 10th, 2023 through May 9th, 2024 in honor of Collier County's centennial celebration. This item is being brought to the agenda by the county manager's office. We spent some time thinking about an appropriate way to recognize the efforts of our staff during the centennial year. I think everybody has enough T-shirts, and the picnic is something we're still considering as an ongoing staff recognition, but the idea rose up about an additional personal day similar to what we grant for various service milestones. And so we thought this would be a good idea to bring to you all for your consideration. The day will be good for 1 year, as indicated, starting, if approved by you, tomorrow, and good through the centennial year. It's a use it or lose it, similar to our other service awards and our personal days. And it just is a nice way to thank the staff for their service and all of those things that they do. We did extend this out to the constitutional officers should they want to implement the same within their organizations.
Okay. Well, I know all of us have been briefed separately on it. Do I have any commissioners that have a comment or an objection or anything they wanted to say before we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
A second? So we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, commissioners. That brings us to item 10A. Now, this is a recommendation to adopt a resolution updating the policies relating to code enforcement liens, direct staff to revisit its procedures for prosecuting code enforcement cases, and direct staff to discuss and reinforce with the Code Enforcement Board and Special Magistrate the parameters for the imposition of fines for code violations. This item is brought to the agenda by Commissioner LaCastro and the board's direction, and the county attorney's office, as well as the Growth Management Department, Community Development, are here to present and or answer questions.
Sure. Let me just set the table a little bit. This is what we've talked about. I wanted to first see if you had an appetite for us not changing the code, but just putting a little bit more structure, a little bit more detail, as we've learned a lot of lessons over the years. And it sounded like everybody, when I first brought this up a couple meetings ago, did think that was a good idea. I've been working closely with Mr. Klatskow on putting together not only an executive summary, but a resolution that was not too complicated. We're not trying to overhaul the process. We're just trying to re-stress a few things when it comes to liens and how the county implements them and enforces them. And then when it comes to just basic fines, the less government, the less things that we sort of less ordinances, sometimes the less resolutions, the better. And and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Klatskow to sort of just give us a good executive summary. But in that particular case, I believe we've already sent the signal to the Code Enforcement Board. Hey, we're really looking for you to do your due diligence, and there's always special cases. But in the case of somebody that has a huge fine, it doesn't just go to zero because they finally mowed the grass, and those kind of examples. But having said that, let me turn it over to Mr. Klatskow. He's going to give us sort of what I'm asking for us to vote on to include in the ordinance that will help better define a few things. And then verbally, he and his staff are going to do several things to make sure that the Code Enforcement Board, our staff, and folks that are involved all the way in between just get the message of what our stance is on liens and fines and things of that nature. So, Mr. Klatskow?
Over the past few months, the chair and I have had a number of conversations on this issue. And what I did was I asked Assistant County Attorney Colleen Kirsten to work with Jamie, look at what other counties are doing. and let's try to put together something that's sort of like right in the middle of it, sort of like best business practice, move us more towards a firm but fair type of process. I leave it to Jamie and Colleen to discuss what they've come up with.
All right, Colleen Cairns, Assistant County Attorney. Our prior process for the relief of liens after they've been imposed by the Code Enforcement Board and by the Special Magistrate was a more informal process where they would write a letter to the Code Enforcement Director and tell their story. What we're really trying to accomplish with this is a more formal process, requiring people to show more documentation, pay an application fee, and it gives staff the opportunity to make sure that they're in compliance with not only our code enforcement rules, but also with our zoning rules, making sure their taxes and all special assessments are up to date before we bring it to the board for a recommendation for settlement. One of the other things it will be doing as well is it puts a cap on the amounts of fines that will be liened on the part of what will be forgiven. It's based on the market value. Different areas of the state do different things. Some have a straight, it's reduced to $1,000 regardless as to what's been accrued. Other places are, it's time to a percentage of the accrued value. In our case, we're trying to really stress that it's a fair imposition. For example, if you have a $35,000 property, it would be 10% or 20% depending on whether or not it was a repeat violation. So it really is fitting the property value as opposed to someone who's had 10 years of accruing fines. So hopefully we'll avoid the situations where we have $800,000 worth of accrued fines coming to the board for forgiveness. Also within the resolution, we do have a part for code enforcement annually to bring back a report to the board to go over what the accrued fines are in different properties, whether or not there is a homestead on the property, which will allow us to determine whether or not we can foreclose on those properties, which is not something we've typically done in the past years. There is also a recommendation when we were going through this process to have our office go back to Code Enforcement Board and the Special Magistrate for evaluations as to the factors delineated under Florida Statute 16209, where they have to consider certain things before they impose that fine, which then becomes the lien that is owned by the Board of County Commissioners. We want to make sure that the people are given an opportunity to present their mitigating factors, and that the board and the special magistrate are being given a full picture as to what the situation is going forward. One of the things we're working on doing is revamping our rules and regulations for Code Enforcement Board and special magistrate to have a more formal process there as well, with requirements that there are arguments for continuances, extensions of time, and mitigating factors for imposition be put into writing. So hopefully this will avoid some of the issues we've been uncovering over the last 2 years as to having these large liens that are having to be reduced.
Do you have anything else to add, Mr. Klatsky? I had a couple comments, but go ahead.
On this, I mean, one of the problems I think the board's had, we'll have somebody purchase a home with a code lien on it, and they did their title report, they know about it, but then they come to the board anyway asking for their forgiveness, and we've tightened that loophole out. I mean, if you're buying your property at a reduced value because of a code lien, then you're going to pay that code lien. Again, the concept is to be fair but firm on code enforcement. The idea behind it tying to the percentage of the homestead is if you've got $1 million property, $50,000 is one thing. If you have a $35,000 property, $50,000 is above that. So that's why we tied it into the fair market value of it. And again, this is an evolving process. The county manager will be coming back a year from now with a report on this. Jamie will be working on that along with the new code enforcement director. And we'll see how it's working, whether or not we need to make changes to it or leave it as it is. But you'll get a report a year from now as to how this is actually working in the field.
Yeah, before I go to the commissioners that are lit up, I just to finish, I guess, setting the table is, when these $800,000 fines come to us and we all sort of know it's like, oh yeah, that's not real. That just doesn't seem like a very good process here. And when we've checked with other counties, there's other people that are doing it a bit tighter. What I like that you said, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues, this this provides more information. I like how you said a more full picture, for the board and the people involved, more involvement by our staff. So, there again, it sort of dovetails on more information before decisions are made, more due diligence and oversight, so that we're not necessarily going from a big fine to zero with minimal information, minimal discussion, and in the end there's always extenuating circumstances. So there is always an out if there is something that the county's not aware of. That lane of conversation has not evaporated. In fact, but it'll be something that can be considered now with a lot more information, which is what I like. So I appreciate y'all working on this really hard, and also not making it too verbose. We've really summarized it down to some things that I think don't change the process per se. It improves it. It adds some things to it and specifies in words some things that were, as you said, were sort of loosely handled, where now it has more specificity. But having said that, let me go to my colleagues, Commissioner Daniel, and then Commissioner Hall, you're on deck, sir. Commissioner McDaniel.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Daniel.
No, Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. I've got a couple of comments. Specifically, number 9 showed up today, and it was not in the original agenda package that I downloaded. Number 8, in the executive summary that talks about the reduce percentages. I'd like, my initial thought was to eliminate that because it provided for too much subjectivity, and at a staff level. And so if we're going to go forward with number 8, I'd like to change the language, or suggest a change in the language, that we move it over to the assessed value of the current year that the lien was actually imposed. It provides for a place for staff to go to actually pick a number that was already a matter of record, and we're not dealing with this nebulous market value, which shifts all of the time. I personally, again, going back to the having that done at an administrative level, allows for potential subjectivity decision making, and that I would prefer not, in fact, transpire. I like the other issues or the other suggestions that were brought in, because what we're actually looking to do is have a property owner who has a complaint or a lien filed take steps prior to the disposition of the asset to actually bring it forward and cure it. I like that aspect of what in fact we're doing. So I do have a couple of comments on the processes over and above this particular item, but that's my number 1 comment with regard to number 8. So
I'd really like Mr. Klatscow to answer. He's really been the champion and the author of this, working with me and trying to package it. I will say I'm not falling on my sword on any of these. I wanted to just at least present something that we are all comfortable with. So I really value the opinion here. We want to try to, I don't want to say we want to try to, we want a document that is going to complement and improve the process that we already have. So this is great conversation, and if there's some things in here that we need to go back to, I don't want to say the drawing board, but we need to edit some things, there's no rush to judgment here. We want to, I always say measure twice and cut once, but let's take yours one at a time, Commissioner. So number 8, your concerns on number 8, and then I'd like Mr. Klaskow to comment as to would Commissioner McDaniel's suggestions improve it, change it, not? I know you've done the deep dive with so many other counties and all the legalese. So, and like I said, I'm not married to any one of these with actual specific verbiage, but I think this is healthy conversation.
Yeah,
obviously.
I think the idea of tying it to an assessed valuation is an outstanding idea because it gives certainty to it.
And
It's right on the website.
to the year that the
That is
lien
this-
was in,
Yeah.
that the lien was effectuated. If you provide for that specificity, I can leave number 8 alone. It just, takes away the
I think it's an
discretion
outstanding
of the
idea.
market
Okay.
value.
And then what was 9? You had something on 9?
Well, 9 was new.
Was
It
new,
wasn't,
yeah.
it wasn't included in the board package that went public last week, and I didn't find I didn't find any fault, so. Now, let's take care of this, and then I have a discussion with regard to processes at all, so.
Yeah. Okay, let me go to Commissioner Hall. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding number 7, title policy is really not required to purchase property in Florida. It's common practice if you have a lien or if you borrow money, but if you pay cash, it's not required. And so there's investors that purchase with cash and they're adding values to the property. There's foreclosures that are bought at the courthouse that you don't have time to do any title work. And owner financing, I could have a lien on a property and I want to get out of it, so I owner finance it to somebody that doesn't know it. I take $20,000 of their money down and I finance it, and then all of a sudden this lien passes to them. So all of the other criteria would have to be met anyway. You know, it'd have to be abated, all the taxes paid up, and so forth. So I was just bringing that up. Closing documents will show if there's a lien on the property anyway, your HUD-1 statement or whatever, or it'll show if you paid cash for it. So I could be comfortable with it. I mean, I'd be all right with it the way it says, but I would prefer the title policy not to be an indice.
Is there a way to better write it, or you think there's some things on there that just need to be, redlined because it's confusing? And then Mr. Klotzkow, give us your comments, because we want the best document possible.
I mean,
so that's a great
I
point.
totally understand, somebody that is aware of the lien, and they're just using that as, as an escape. But if I don't want to punish the many based on on the few.
Well, I guess I'm trying to ascertain the intent of the board here, because this comes out of a couple of conversations people have had coming to the board saying, look, I purchased this property, and I didn't know about this lien. And I find that astounding myself, that you would spend that kind of money and not do a title search, but for the $150 it costs, but that's just me. We tied it to this because it's an easy document to look at. If you just want to say that when you buy your property with an outstanding lien, it's caveat emptor. I mean, buyer beware, and that's the end of it. We won't tie it to a title insurance policy.
Sure, I understand. I understand the rationale. Yes, Mr. French?
Just wondering, what if we just inserted some terminology? Because this really was in response to that gentleman that had bought properties from that property owner before and said, on this one, I just didn't have title insurance, and I just didn't, I didn't do my background, and goodness, the board gave him a gift. But that's the reason why this is in here, as Colleen and I have discussed. But what if we use something like or if applicable, so that if there is the need for having title insurance?
Sure. I mean, if you look at the closing document and there's a loan documented on there as a first lien, then you know that there's a title policy involved.
All this language would do is require the people to include those documents, if applicable, in their application as an attachment, so that we have full understanding as to what the situation is moving forward. And the way it's phrased as well is for the purchase of the property. I didn't want to have things hindering if it's a property going through probate, where there really is no purchase, but there is a title change. Yeah. So I tried to do it as discretionary as we could to kind of allow the people who have situations like probate go forward and have it, which is why it says it may be considered as a reason for rejection.
Sure, I'm fine.
We can clean up the language and make it more clear if it's the board's prerogative.
Personally, just
Yes, sir.
as
Go
a
ahead.
comment, I mean,
Then I'll go to Commissioner Saunders.
our goal here, or at least I think our goal here is there may be future boards that aren't as aware as we are with regard to real estate transactions. And so the goal here is to get as much information. The way I was reading these things is the proposed resolution creates that final written document for the property owner to come through the process and supply this necessary information.
Right.
And then when another board has to hear of a property owner's issue who made an error, didn't do their due diligence, bought a piece of property, didn't do a title search, they get to be held accountable for that and not go, oh, I'm sorry. So
Right. Okay. So are there, just to summarize here before I go to Commissioner Saunders, I like what you said, Mr. French. I think there's a couple of little words, not to wordsmith it to death, that would give number 7 more clarity. So, Commissioner Saunders, what do you have, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank you for really taking the lead on this issue. One of the biggest complaints we get from constituents is problems with their neighbors making too much noise or not taking care of their property. And code enforcement is very, very important, especially if you take a look at Golden Gate City as an example, where there are numerous code violations that just go on and on forever, and even though code enforcement may not be able to take any particular action. So I just want to thank you for really taking the lead on this and beefing up our process here. My biggest concern was with number 8, because we just don't know what the fair market value is, and I didn't want to have the county have to get appraisals to determine that value, but that's taken care of. And it sounds like number 7 is taken care of as well. So the issues that I had made notes on have been addressed. So again, just to thank you for taking the lead on this.
Okay. Anybody else? The other thing too, that's I don't want to be too repetitive, but the homework assignment for Mr. Klotzkow, and he guarantees me this, is that when we'll make the changes here, and I think I hope we can vote on it based on the changes, and then the new document would go out. But also too, it is imperative, and our legal team is going to take the lead on this, is that when this is presented to code enforcement and other staff, as I said before, not only will this be explained, although I think it's self-explanatory, but also finishing the conversation when it comes to fines and because we already have the right things in print, so I don't think we need to rewrite everything. But the conversation that we had is just a reconfirmation that they do their due diligence, and if there's not an extenuating circumstance, we don't go from 100,000 to 0 in 10 seconds, and then the person walks out the door. And that they also get guidance and input from the county staff. I mean, I had a conversation with Mr. French where he said, "Wow, if something's going to code enforcement, and we have a lot of background information that they don't have, we will make sure we're at that code enforcement meeting, not to beat up the person who's at the other podium, but to make sure that the board has all of the information possible before they rule on something, so that we're not giving away taxpayer dollars, or we're not overly penalizing somebody." So I think that will definitely make the process much better. Commissioner McDaniel.
I'll make a motion for approval as amended with those language changes to number 8. And I think if I heard you correctly, you're going to change it, closing documents or title insurance.
Correct.
Just
right.
And change that "and" to an "or." I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Go away.
Yes, sir.
Just one moment. Again, Jamie French, for the record, your department head for growth management. I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce Tom Marino, our new code enforcement director. Not often do you get to pick your successor, but Mr. Osorio, our current code director, or former code director, sat on our interview panel, and Tom was his number 1. Tom has spent the last 32 years of his career as a first responder with the National Park Service. Actually lives right here in Collier County, has for nearly 20 years. And he's worked as a wildlife officer, boater safety, firefighter, law enforcement, and he's already got an established working relationship, I know, with the Sheriff's Office and the City of Everglades. So we're very pleased to introduce Tom, and I know I've made him made the rounds to be able to introduce you to some of them, but we're awfully grateful that he chose to stay here in Collier County and come aboard with us. So we're looking forward to advancing our organization, and again, sending Mike off. He's going to still be with our organization, but Mike did a great job as code enforcement director, and certainly set the bar pretty high. So any questions or comments for Tom? I think he's standing right behind me.
Bring him up.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think I've met everybody except for Mr. Saunders, sir. Commissioner Saunders, sorry, sir.
Either way works.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is interesting document that got thrown in my lap when I got here a month ago, and I've been reading it and trying to understand it and learn it myself. So it's a lot of work in progress, and I will do my best to implement it as it comes across.
Great.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir. Commissioner McDaniel.
And this has to do with my previous statement with regard to how we're doing what we're doing. Commissioner Saunders brought up a good point earlier with regard to ongoing code issues. And, you know, government intrusion is a issue of mine. But on the same token, the four bounds of a property owner should not be negatively impacted by another. The quiet enjoyment of those four bounds of a property owner. I would like for us to make some adjustments in how we're doing what we're doing. Code enforcement, and if it needs to be a board directive and we need to have a discussion about this in a more formal format, I can actually bring an agenda item forward. But it's become commonplace for a property owner who has visible violations to deny code enforcement access to that property. It's commonplace. And then we're stopped. We're stopped at the front gate. We're not allowed to come through. So I would like to, we can go on if a warrant is secured. So I'm led to believe. That needs to be commonplace for our code enforcement when we're denied access to a property where a known violation is in fact transpiring.
Understood. Of course, you know, we try to get other ways of getting there through the neighbor's property. If we can't get that direction and we still can't get what we're looking for, sometimes we are stopped. And if we do have enough probable cause to get a warrant, hopefully we can do that.
Can you fly a drone?
No.
We cannot fly a drone. No,
Cannot
sir.
fly a drone, and that's there again. That comes into government intrusion, and it remind me to tell you the story about the drone I saw. So the what I would like, and if you need me to bring an agenda item forward and us review the procedures and policies so that code has a little more direction as to what we would like to see transpire. I think we pull a couple of warrants to go on to someone's property who's denied us access, the word will spread out that that's in fact what we're going to do. I mean, you can't hardly overcome the fence fighting, I call it, when one neighbor's mad at the other because his dog's coming over and doing their business on somebody else's piece of property. But on the same token, we have a duty to protect the quiet enjoyment of a particular property owner's.
And finding that fine line between that and invasion of somebody else's privacy, understood. It's a challenge.
And it becomes abusive, especially, I mean, Golden Gate City, we have an enormous amount of violations that are going on. Golden Gate Estates, it's turning back into the Wild East.
In my first month here, I've reviewed some SOPs. I'm reviewing more SOPs as we're going through them for our own internal standard procedures, and I'm going over those with staff as they come up and trying to review as many as I can to hopefully mitigate some of the concerns that you may have.
I won't belabor the point any longer. If you need some direction from this board, let me know.
Absolutely.
Three nods and we'll do it.
Sir?
If we have 3 nods, we'll do it, or it can come back on executive summary. It's whatever you guys want.
3 nods?
3 nods and we can implement, or we can come back on executive summary.
Is that one person nodding 3 times?
Well, that would be Commissioner McDaniel's idea, but no, I need 3 separate nods.
I really, you know, there again, whichever you folks prefer, I want our staff to be comfortable, and I actually want to know the process that, you know, you were talking about, a review of SOPs. I think we ought to probably do an executive summary on it, just to have
Make it
an
more
agenda
clear.
item.
We can see it.
I'll bring an item second meeting, in our next meeting in May.
Okay, Commissioner Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. I never really understood code anyways. I mean, I come from a criminal law enforcement background, and, you know, code enforcement operates kind of in a different environment. And from what I understand, a lot of, like, Commissioner Saunders saying, a lot of times these complaints are just simply a neighbor doesn't enjoy another neighbor's music or something like that. And it brings brought to the attention to code enforcement, and because it's a complaint, code enforcement has to investigate. And then, but, you look at our Constitution, our Sixth Amendment, you're required, you have the right to face your accuser. That's in our Constitution. And I think code works a little differently like that. You could be anonymous, and the code enforcement is the accuser. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I think at some point, if the accusers are actually, or faces on the accuser, this may cut down on a lot of the frivolous complaints. Because constitutionally in the Sixth Amendment, I'm not going to read it verbatim or remember it verbatim, but you do have the right to face your accuser in anything where you're acting under the color of law, in finding or charging a crime against another citizen. So I don't know if it's as simple as that you can get rid of this anonymous complaint. I don't know. That might just cut down on a lot of the frivolous complaints too.
So, Commissioner, thank you. Great point. Again, Jamie French. Under Florida Statute 162 is what we operate code enforcement under. And actually, the House and Senate 2 years ago in session, they used Collier County as a model. And so 162 does not allow for anonymous complaints.
Okay.
And so unless it is considered of imminent health, life, or safety, so in your life safety code predominantly is your Florida building code. So if we've got illegal structures that weren't properly permitted under that state statute that could perhaps be unsafe, those are the type of things that we can act on. Tall grass that could cause fires. And we would represent ourselves to say, driving by, this is something we saw. RVs. Not saying that an RV stored in your Golden Gate Estates lot isn't something that we see every day. It's an RV where you've got 12 of them and you're on a glamping site and you're renting them for $65 a night. Those are of concern for both the community as well as for the Florida Building Code, because what the Building Code says is that if it exists and it's occupied for more than 6 months and it's not road ready, it is now a structure that requires under state statute a permit. So we would address those, and all of those will require some investigation from those people who are actually licensed and professional in that field. So code is going to have to work with our building department or building division more under and Mr. Bosey more and Ms. Cook more and my office more and perhaps DAS, because they really, and the sheriff's office, because they really are the subject matter experts in certain fields. So that code is coming forward and opening that investigation, working on that code case determination check sheet. And we would bring that back with Commissioner McDaniel's pleasure. We'll bring that back and explain that. But you're absolutely right. 162 does not allow for anonymous complaints. We don't take them unless it's a life safety issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Well, and therein lies part of the circumstance on the process. Retribution for an actual complaint oftentimes comes from the complainant, and so our answer to not having anonymous complaints is to file the commissioner to file the complaint on behalf of the complainant. So we end up being the person who files to hold a neighbor anonymous who's fearful of retribution. There's some not nice people out there that are doing some not nice things that and intimidating neighbors into fear of retribution. So that's part of that discussion that we'll have in the latter part of May as to how we get there from here.
Commissioner Saunders.
Just a quick comment and a question. There have been workarounds in terms of the anonymity of complaints. I think in Golden Gate City, I'll use that as an example. If someone has a complaint, they can get the Golden Gate Civic Association to file the complaint. So they have ways to kind of work around that. It helps a little bit, but not a whole lot. But the question I have is, if you are on one of your patrols, say you're on a canal and you're patrolling an area, there's been a violation and you're going to check it out, and you see another violation. whether it's, tall grass or just some violation that you know is a violation. Question is, can you take action as a code enforcement officer when you see a violation that's not been reported?
Yes, Tom Yenberg again for the code enforcement. Yes, we can do that. There's a point where there's self-initiated field activity for all the staff. They can get out there and see things and act on things, but there are certain things that we do act on and certain things that we just don't have the time to act on because there's just so much going on sometimes. So it's judging what's the life, safety, and health that we need to take actions on.
So when this comes back, and we're in our budget process now, and we all recognize how important code enforcement is, and that your hands are somewhat tied in terms of receiving complaints. But if we had more code enforcement officers available, so you would have more time, I think that would help solve some problems as well. So during the budget process, I'd like for the board to consider beefing up code enforcement because, as the chairman has certainly acknowledged with what he's brought forward here, this is really important for a lot of people. And I hear the complaints, I'm sure we all do, every day, of neighbors not wanting to file a complaint because they're afraid they're going to be shot at or something of that nature. And so I would like to see us consider, part of staff's, my request to staff would be, let us know what you need, because it's an important issue.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, for the record, Jamie French. We are working directly with the county manager's office and Mr. Finn, the budget office, on these exact things. We're looking at everything from a more of a unified force multiplier on how we can work best across all of the departments for the county and still be able to provide a level of service that the county can count on. But not just that, but also to ensure that we do honor 162, that the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution is recognized, and that these are truly life safety issues that we would be bringing forward as self-initiated, and we'd be able to properly respond to the community. So thank you for that. We appreciate your support, and we'll look at that through the budget process as well as continuing to work with the manager's office.
You got one more here, Commissioner McDaniel.
And this is just a point for my colleagues. I have a complaint that I have. I don't know if I filed it yet or not, but it's coming. But I drove out to look at it myself. In a drive-by on one street in Golden Gate Estates, I counted 5 violations that I could see from the road, just driving by. I mean, on the main corner, there was a guy who had he had 5 tractor trailers, semis with tractor trailers parked in behind his house on the way into the one. And so that's in fact what I was talking about, how we can gear this up to not be an intrusion, not be government overreach, but yet at the same time protect the quiet enjoyment of the property owner who is in existence next to a violation that's in fact transpiring. So that's just an example of one street that I drove up in looking at an ongoing code issue.
Okay.
We'll deal with it more at length.
I'll move the trucks out of the yard, sir.
Was that your house?
So in summary, let's make those small changes. Get the latest copy with the new date on it out to all the commissioners and of course the staff and the code enforcement board. Let's re-stress when it comes to our enforcement of fines as well. And you know what I hope this is also a deterrent, because I do think there's people out there that sort of, outside of this room and in town say, you got a $30,000 fine. You go in, you tell a little story, they make it 0, and then everything's fine. And I think we need to turn the corner on that. Certainly, like I always say, there's extenuating circumstances, and that's what we're not trying to beat up. But in the end, this is also real taxpayer money. And if you break the law, if you blow us off, if you say, hey, I'll get to it when I get to it, and then once I'm in compliance, the county's policy is they make it go to 0. I don't think we want to do that anymore. So, lastly, I'd just like to thank Mr. Klatskow and his team and Mr. French and all of his folks who have worked with me over the weeks to put something that wasn't government overreach, but was clarification on details. You're pointing out, who are you pointing to?
Colleen is, she's...
Oh, so she did everything?
She is an amazing partner. I will tell you that Jeff's, between Sally Ashgar and Derek Perry and Heidi and Colleen, your county attorney's office has really been able to promote and support us in that way. And, you know, if I need to, Jeff and I, you know, we certainly will work together as well, but his assistant county attorneys have been great to work with, and really it's Colleen is kind of the glue that sticks us all together and keeps us out of the guardrail. So.
There you go. Well, and I think the important thing too isn't just the document itself, but it's the process, the engagement that you know, the more hands-on approach that we're going to have to be a little bit more hands-on, more transparent, and gather more information so that our code enforcement board and others can make better decisions and enforce these policies much more stringently in the cases where they should be. Okay, I think we're ready for a break. So let's take a break. And what do you all think? We come back here at what do you think? What we're saying? Come back in about 10 minutes. So we'll say 10:50.
Chair, you have a live mic.
Okay. Where are we going next?
Well, at your pleasure, we do have
11
our
o'clock?
team here for the 11 o'clock time certain. We could take them a couple of minutes early rather.
Yeah, if you've got everybody here, let's roll right into that.
They're all ready to go. This is a presentation of the annual, item 13A, presentation of the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022, and authorization to file the related State of Florida annual local government financial report with the Department of Financial Services. Mr. Derek Johnson, Clerk's Office Director of Finance and Accounting, will start the presentation.
Thank you, County Manager. Good morning, Commissioners. Derek Johnson, Finance Director for the Clerk and Comptroller's Office. You see me about every time this year to do the very same thing, create this large tome, which I expect you all to read every page. This audit covers the consolidated county as a product of many hours of effort on the part of staff across the county agencies. We truly appreciate the support we get from administration, the budget office, county attorney's office, and public utilities. I would like to add my sincere gratitude for the time and dedication that my staff put into creating this document. For fiscal year 2022, the county received an unmodified audit opinion, which is the best that I can bring to you. We have a brief presentation of the results for the audit today. With that, I'd like to introduce Chris Kessler, partner in charge with Clifton Larson Allen, the county's auditor. We will, of course, be available afterwards for questions. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good to see everyone. So as Derek said, we are here to discuss the 2022 financial statement and compliance audit for the county. And generally, we're going to keep it fairly brief, but I'd love for questions or comments throughout. So, please feel free to chime in as I move through. But as we talk through the 2022 results, generally speaking, as Derek said, unmodified opinion on the financial statement, so I'm bringing good news to everyone here today. So the services that we've performed, they are no different than years past. I'm not going to read all these in detail, but there's three main pieces that we look at in performing your audit. And the first is the audit of your financial statements, the audit of the federal compliance, so all of those federal grants that the county receives, we take a sample of those transactions and make sure that dollars are spent in accordance with the grant programs, reporting is done as required, procurement is followed as required, things along those lines, as well as from a state compliance standpoint, both with the grants and certain state statutes that the county has to follow. We take a look at those transactions and make sure those are in line. The reports that we issue as a result, these are no different from prior years. So again, these are the deliverables that get inserted into that very large document, your annual comprehensive financial report, the ACFR. And so if you look at these reports from prior years, the actual reports themselves have not changed, but I do want to bring to your attention, they will look different from prior years. Every once in a while, the standard setters that govern our profession changed some of the rules, and they changed some of the layout of these reports to make them a little easier for the users of the financial statements to understand. So they don't look directly like last year, but the content is still the same, and the opinions are in these reports in the same manner. So the results of the procedures, as was previously mentioned, the independent auditor's report was an unmodified opinion. This is a clean opinion. This is the highest level of opinion on your financial statements that you can receive. Your independent auditor's report on internal control had no reported findings. Your single audit report, both on the federal programs and on state projects, was unmodified opinion on compliance with no reported findings. So again, clean opinion, highest level you all can receive. The management letter that we have to issue under Florida statutes had no reported comments, but we do, as we do every year, we make certain suggestions for best practices and areas for improvement based off what we see elsewhere or based off what we see when we're in performing audit procedures to management verbally throughout the audit process. And then our independent accountant's report, which is on some of the state compliance that we have to look at, that was an unmodified attestation opinion on compliance as well. So again, highest level, clean opinion. So there are certain communications that I am required to make to you all, and they are included in the governance communication letter that is provided to you all as well. But some of the key ones that I want to highlight here today, the scope and timing of the audit proceeded as planned. That means what we planned to do, we executed upon, and there were no changes to that. Significant accounting policies were in accordance with industry standards and what we call GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. There were no difficulties encountered in performing the audit. Significant risks that we identify in our planning were addressed as planned. And then management was very cooperative, helpful, and professional during the audit. So as always, it's always a pleasure working with your teams throughout both the county and the clerk's office in performing this audit. We spend a lot of time and we ask a lot of questions and request a lot of information to issue these opinions. And it is always, always a pleasure to work with everyone here that provides us what we need efficiently, effectively, and focuses on quality financial information so we can get in and do our job well. So we're always appreciative of that. I do want to highlight a little bit of what these financial statements contain and what the 2022 audit really had to deal with this year. So, you know, you do read through your financial statements. There is a lot of information in there. And for a county of this size, there is a lot of audit work that has to be done. But as you look at 2022, similar to some of the things we've talked about in previous years, particularly the last couple years, there are some significant changes in operations that we have to deal with from an audit perspective. And the first is the required testing of the county's grant programs that relate to some of the pandemic funding that has come through the last couple years. Now, we always have to select the large grant programs that you all administer on any given year. But with some of these pandemic-related funds, the federal government has required a higher level of risk until those funds are spent. And so we have the four listed here: the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, the Federal Transit Cluster, and the Airport Improvement Program. Now, those last two, the Federal Transit Cluster and the Airport Improvement Program, those are programs you typically have in any given year. So those are not new programs as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic and the funding sources that came through, but there were certain allocations of additional funding that the federal government put out there as a result of the pandemic through some of the various federal legislation that came out through the two administrations during the pandemic that increased funding for the county. So as a result, we have to spend additional time testing those every single year because some of those funds came through those various legislative acts that the federal government passed. So a lot of time and effort went into those. That will continue until those funds are spent, probably through 2025 or so. These grants have complex and unique rules as well. So your management team has to be on top of all of these unique and complex rules in order to have the clean opinion like you all have received. So the fact that you all were able to administer these funds in the way that you did is a big, a big pat on the back is owed to your folks within all the departments that administer these dollars. We have a lot of clients that did not do their due diligence in administering some of these funds. I mean, you can see the headlines, you can read the news around the country with some of the after-the-fact issues that have come about with some of these funds, or you can read their audit reports and see some of the findings that come out there. Your personnel did an excellent job of making sure that all the T's were crossed, all the I's were dotted, and even when there were questions on some of these rules, they did an excellent job of contacting us to ask those questions and put together memos and positions papers for us to read through before making certain decisions on if they were in line with the compliance and the requirements. So, you know, that is a big testament to the work that went into these programs and to these funds by your management team here. So, and then the second bullet we have here, and obviously this is no surprise to anyone, the Hurricane Ian's impact on the county's financial statements and the audit. A hurricane is always, a challenge to get through, but especially for us accountants and auditors with a September 30th year end, and when the hurricane hits in September right before that year end, that adds a whole other complexity to things and adds a little bit of a wrinkle into the process. So there were two main factors of that besides just kind of the normal impact that the hurricane had on the county. But from an accounting standpoint, your team had to look at all of the capital assets owned by the county to determine if they were impaired. And I'm not going to get into the accounting rules of impairment, but essentially if those assets were damaged in a way that could impact their service capacity going forward, they would need to be written down in the financial statements, whether they were repairable or not. So a full-scale review had to be performed not only for insurance purposes and FEMA purposes like you all were doing to just respond and react to the hurricane, but from an accounting standpoint, it had to be looked at from that lens as well to determine if the financial statements needed to be adjusted at year end. So that was a big effort by management to do that, and then we had to audit that information and make sure that it was done appropriately. So big effort and lift from that standpoint on the county side. But then just the impact of the storm in general on county operations and within all of the personnel that have a part in this audit at the departments, within the finance team, within the clerk's office, just to pull together year-end numbers and to then respond to our audit requests while dealing with, county operations and responding and recovering from the hurricane, as well as what was going on in their personal lives. The fact that we're sitting here today in early May delivering this report, it's again a testament to your team here for the effort that they put in to get us to this point. There are a lot of peer governments around the state and around the country that have natural disasters that aren't able to get their reports out as quickly as you all did after that has happened. So again, I want to stress that is a testament to the effort and to the folks that you have working for you here within your teams to get us to the point that we are today. So I can tell you we appreciate it because it helps us do our job as well. So, a big thank you again to all the team members here. But with that said, that is really what I wanted to cover here. And, I apologize, I forgot to introduce Alex Mitchell, who's also with me. She was the manager on the engagement. So I know some of you met Alex or have seen Alex throughout the process. And, she's the one who's asking a lot of those questions and dealing with a lot of the requests. So she's doing a lot of the hard work, so she deserves a thank you as well, as long as the clerk's office.
Yeah, we know. We got that. Yeah, we all heard that. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks, Alex. I have a comment and a question, and then I'm going to go to if anybody's lit up. My first comment is I really appreciate how you've said that our county staff really did their due diligence in managing federal funds properly, and that, a lot of counties maybe sort of were a little sloppy, because I can tell you it was a while ago, we were sitting in this very room, and a lot of those staff members from the county were getting beat up by citizens saying, wow, if you're down in County X, they're handing out money like candy, and you guys have such a difficult, you have this, you've invented your own process, to make it more difficult to utilize, to gain access to those funds. And our reply over and over is, no, we're using the process that the federal government gave us. Some other counties are streamlining some things with their own homemade applications, but that's going to come back to bite them. What I'm hearing from you is it came back to bite them. So, that'll get lost in the headlines in the newspapers. But way back when, there was a lot of stuff in social media and even in print media here in the county saying, Collier County isn't handing out money fast enough. I mean, that was an actual article. I don't think I'm over exaggerating. And, to hear, all this time later an audit say, good on you, to your staff. It wasn't a matter of not handing out money quick enough. It was a matter of doing it properly. And then lastly, it's a question for you, and you might not have the answer. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but was there one best practice that just jumps out so you can throw an attaboy to, our staff, that maybe it's buried in the report and we'll all eventually read it, but is there something that you're walking away here going, wow, we're taking that as a best practice to every other county we go to, because it was, whether there were one or two, or just something that you could give us a short version that was actually very impressive?
I will say the one thing that we always have, and one of our takeaways that we always have working with Collier County, is the level of due diligence and effort that goes into your disbursements and your review of those invoices and transactions and the cleanliness of those files by the time we get them. A lot of times from an audit perspective, we'll ask for support and it's maybe half completed, or it's, go find it in this 30-page PDF, if you will, and we have to go search for it. You all never have that challenge provided to us, or, everything is very clean. Everything is always signed off, approved, very diligently reviewed in what we look at. And it allows us not only to do our work quicker, but it makes it more enjoyable to do what we're doing as well on a day-to-day basis, when we know everything's going to look good when we receive it.
Clerk of Courts, your staff, and lots of other people too. But thank you. I appreciate that. Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, this type of report doesn't just come out of thin air. It's due to the leadership of the clerk's office, Crystal Kenzel, and of course Derek Johnson, in terms of their leadership and the other staff there. So congratulations to the clerk and to her staff for this report. I will also say the relationship between the county and the clerk has not always been positive. Now, the relationship between the county and the current clerk has always been positive, certainly for the last 7-8 years. And I say that because all of us up here, all the 5 commissioners and our county manager and her staff, understand how important the role of the clerk is in doing the post and pre-audit function, and making sure that these reports are clean reports. So I just want to say to the clerk, thank you, congratulations on this type of report. It says a lot about your operation. It's positive for us as county commissioners to have this report as well. So just thank you and congratulations on that. And thank you, sir, for the work that you've done for the clerk's office and for the county.
Great.
And I'll make a motion to accept the report. I know that we don't have to formally adopt it, but I think we can go ahead on a voice vote, accept the report as presented.
Okay. Got a motion? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
And if I could, just thank you so much for the accolades. I do have a fantastic staff, but all the difference in the world comes from the relationship with county staff. We're able to pick up the phone, they pick up the phone. We're going to keep these to the caliber that you appreciate. I also can't let it go that we now have from the accounting and finance side a trifecta, so to speak, the ACFR, the PAFR, a lot of acronyms, and the budget. We have won the national award from the Government Finance Officers Association for consecutive years. This was our very first publication of the popular annual financial report, and it was also recognized. So we've added that third leg. That's the best you can do with the National Association, and that's all due to the great staff on both sides. So appreciate the recognition.
Great. Thank you.
And we do have good auditors, I have to admit. They do ask a lot of questions, so thank you.
Okay, County Manager, where are we going next?
Commissioners, we're going to go to item 11C, formerly 16A18. This is a recommendation to approve an economic development agreement with PFPI OZ LLC for the proposed Project Centro for reimbursement of up to $788,878.56 in actual expenditures for sanitary sewer, drainage, impact fees, and building permits for constructing a mixed-use development headquarters in the Golden Gate City Economic Development Zone, finding that this applicant is a target business qualifying for the incentives set forth in the GGEDZ ordinance. This item was moved from item 16A8 to the regular agenda by Commissioner Saunders' request.
Okay, Commissioner Saunders?
Thank you. There's no issues with this. I wanted this off the consent agenda so we could talk a little bit about it, especially for the new commissioners that we have that were not part of the initial process to create that economic development zone and some of the projects and things that we've been working on for a number of years. This particular project is the first new project pursuant to the overlay, the zoning overlay that this board approved. And it's a beautiful building. The renderings in the package are really nice. It's going to be probably one of the nicest, if not the nicest, building in that economic development zone. And my goal was in creating and asking the board to create this economic development zone and to do this overlay was to start the process of improving the commercial district along Golden Gate Parkway. And so this project certainly fits the category of projects that I think can help jumpstart more development along these lines. This will be a first-class office building with a first-class restaurant on the first floor. I can tell you from a meeting a couple of meetings I've had in Golden Gate City, the folks that are active civically there are very excited about this type of project. Doing things that will help improve that overall area. In addition, one of our goals is to get as many people off of septic systems as possible. This particular project will be providing a sewer line to this project, so this project will not be on a septic system, but there will also be 7 other commercial properties that will hook into that sewer line and other multifamily residential areas out there that will be able to hook into this. I've talked to Dr. Yilmaz about making sure that these lines, when they're put in, these service lines are sufficient to hook up any other developers in development that would be going into this area, again with the goal of eliminating septic systems. This project is right on a canal. I think they call it the Santa Barbara Canal, if I'm not mistaken. The restaurant will have seating that is on a deck that will actually be over part of the canal. It'll be very nice. But more importantly, it will help eliminate runoff and seepage from septic systems that are polluting that canal will help. It won't solve the problem there, but it'll certainly help. So I just wanted the board to understand that this is part of a long-term project. Hopefully will be the springboard for others coming, hopefully more quickly. This has been a couple of years in the making, but at least we got the first one ready to go. So I make a motion to approve this project and the funding for this project.
Okay, got a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Motion to approve in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner McDaniel, didn't see you let up there, sir. Go ahead.
I had a question, and it had to do with rate of return on the term of this reimbursement, how long it, and I think I asked this question on Friday during my one-on-ones. Do we have a estimated time for the reimbursement to come back?
Sorry. So when we calculate these rate of returns, there's a couple of different things that we're looking at. So if we simply look at the investment of just under $800,000, then divided by the increase to the tax base, and it is a substantial increase. They're proposing an investment absent the infrastructure and the other fees of about $4.5 or $4.6 million, and that may be shy of what it actually costs to construct this. Now, the payback on something like that, just considering the increase in taxes, if you look at the county portion, would be over a longer term. But the interesting part about this project is the accessory benefit, and that is the extension of those sewer lines allows different types of commercial to be able to be constructed, as well as the benefit to any of the residential properties, multifamily is what they are, to be used in different ways. So when we were considering that, I've done dozens of these types of tax runouts and TIF runouts looking to try to recapture within 15 to 20 years. It can be exceptionally difficult when we're only considering the portion of the millage that we have control over. However, in this case, I think when we really get our arms around the benefits to the surrounding properties, we are within a reasonable window of that recapture. And the second part of this is the catalyst effect of a business actually taking part in the economic development zone, and then that encouragement that will occur as it starts to hopefully ripple down the corridor. So I'm sorry that we don't have an exact time, because it's really this one being the first to go is really going to set the stage for those things to come.
Okay, well, going forward, then I would like to have the recapture on that we do have control over. We're all aware, as Commissioner Saunders stated, that there's a lot of ancillary benefits to providing this, but I also would, from a term standpoint, I'd like to have that data.
Understood.
And we don't have to have it today. You can just tell me.
Understood.
sometime.
And as we get our arms around this particular project, we can most certainly report back on that. But we understand, and the picture will become clearer as we work in this zone more. Jamie.
Commissioners, again, for the record, Jamie French with your Growth Management and Community Development Department Head. I appreciate what you're saying, Commissioner McDaniel. You're absolutely right. There is a large ancillary return that is typically not considered. This will impact 15 properties. So there's 8 residential properties that this will affect as well. So what we'll see is improved beyond the environmental consideration. We'll also see more value of the property for redevelopment. And this really does grasp the spirit of what the board had adopted with the Golden Gate City overlay to promote this type of regeneration of dollars, of interest. And we're continuing to get lots of calls. And this is the first Class A facility that we've seen of many to come, as what we expect. So we will bring that back forward, going forward in our calculations. We'll bring that back going forward with our calculations for any further considerations that you would
Sure,
have in front of you.
I wasn't nitpicking. I just, when I was reviewing the board package, I had a note here as to what the actual payback is with the controlled dollar, or with the dollars that were coming back to the county with the enhancement of the value of the property that's being developed. So that was where I was going.
Commissioner Saunders?
Just real quickly, I certainly understand the issue in terms of rate of return. That's really not the issue in terms of what we're trying to accomplish there in terms of a rate of return on that actual dollar investment. And we do that a lot. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we waived impact fees in certain types of development in the Immokalee area. I believe that's an ongoing project. I'm not sure how many people have taken advantage of that, but I don't know that we've tried to calculate a rate of return on those dollars that are there to help assist some redevelopment in the Immokalee area. I only mention that because I don't know that we really focus too much on rate of return on this type of an issue. So as this goes forward, I know you're going to be coming back with a calculated rate of return, and it may show that it's going to take 50 years to get a return of investment. That's not really the controlling factor. If you just look at those dollars going to that specific project, what's the rate of return from that specific project is not the whole picture. And I think we do that a lot. So I just want to make sure the board, at least from my perspective, understands that that rate of return is not the sole issue that we're concerned about here. It's the impact on the overall community that we're trying to improve.
Commissioners, we understand, and to your point, absolutely. So in the past, in our more in-depth economic development programs, rate of return on a straight line is only one factor that's looked at, because you have all of the spin-off business as well as the impact of those visitors and those employees. So it is a complicated thing to analyze. You starting, of course, easily with how much we're giving and how much we're getting back, but there are at least 10 other factors that would have to be considered in any of this analysis.
Okay, we did have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation of the Economic Development Agreement. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Where are we going next? Is 11E?
Yes, Commissioners.
Good one.
This next up will be item 11E, which is formerly 16F2. This is a recommendation to approve a second amendment to vacant land contract between Collier County and David Lawrence Mental Health Center, Inc. that extends the approval period 1 year due to unexpected delay in finalizing the rezoning of the underlying property, the time to obtain the necessary site development plans. This item is being moved at Commissioner McDaniel's request, and we have Mr. Ed Finn, Deputy County Manager, here to answer questions.
Sir?
And
Thank you, ma'am.
do you want to go first? Do you want me to say what I'm looking at here? I wanted this item to come up for a discussion because I'm hearing other things that are going on other than just this rezone of this piece of property. I'm hearing of excess expense associated with the construction of this facility. I'm hearing about an adjustment to the available beds that were diagnosed to be part of this central receiving area in order to fit the budget constraints that were established for the construction of this facility. And I'm concerned that we're heading down a path where we're extending this out, and the construction costs are not going to go down, and we're still not going to necessarily meet the need, and we're going to be further down a rabbit hole.
Yes, sir. Edward Finn, Deputy County Manager. This project is moving forward, and as we would expect, with the recent addition of our construction manager, they've provided a resource for us to look at the budgets being developed by the architect, which has allowed us to look at those very hard, take out some of the, and I'll refer to it as nice-to-haves or gingerbread at this point, and allow us to focus on the programming of the facility so that we can best achieve the overall goals. The bed issue is one that needs to be worked through with the delivery team. There certainly is pressure from David Lawrence, our partner in this, to add additional Medicare or hospital-type beds, and that does have a significant impact on the ultimate cost of this facility. I think the board has been told that right along. It has been a matter of some debate just what that number should be, and that continues to be discussed and evaluated, particularly now that we have that construction manager expertise on the actual costing of the project.
Are your concerns such that you want to delay this and have David Lawrence Center here, or just wanted to highlight some of the things that you feel we got to make sure we continue to discuss and not fall through the crack? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, we still haven't seen, I still haven't seen an actual construction cost for the facility. I still haven't seen an O&M, operations and maintenance budget, that's coming from this facility at all. And we're extending the zoning process, which is going to continue on with the development of this project and not having all of the data. I just see us getting to a point where we've invested so much we can't reverse the circumstances.
Well, if I may, this project, as you know, is a surtax project. The surtax list of projects was developed in 2017. It was developed in such a way as to establish the community priorities. And I think I've told this board before, I have no way of knowing how much effort went into developing the individual estimates at that point in time. So when I look at that particular budget, the budget is $25 million in the surtax program. Like many of the projects there, is it going to cost more because it was developed 5-6 years ago? We've had unprecedented inflation, supply chain, COVID. The answer is yes. We don't need to look any further than the Vanderbilt Beach Road extension. It wasn't so long ago that project was seen as a $70 million project. That project was let with the benefit of commercial paper to plug the paper hole in the budget at in excess of $150 million. The fact that that has a larger price tag in no way diminishes the requirement to build that road. And while I certainly hope that this project does not have that substantial an increase, I expect at a minimum a 30 or 40% margin on the original estimate developed in 2017, and that is likely to be compounded by the community needs as they're envisioned presently and as this board approves when they ultimately see the project. So that's my way of saying, sir, I acknowledge your concerns. I have confidence that with our partner we'll work through these and we'll have an opportunity to present it to the county manager and ultimately to the board, who will have alternatives presented to them when they see this budget.
Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you. I certainly don't want to delay this item, but I will say a couple things because I think it's going to become apparent that this project probably will cost more than the $25 million that was allocated. And as Mr. Finn has pointed out, probably most of the projects in our sales tax project list are going to cost more than what was anticipated at the time. That's the bad news. The good news is that our sales tax collections, when we cease collecting, when we reach that $490 million number, and I think 70 million of that went to the cities. So when we reach that $420 million number and that 490 number, we continue to collect that sales tax for the remainder of the year in which that number is arrived at. And that might be, I'm not sure if that's this year or if it's going to be in 2024. So our sales tax collections will be in excess of the numbers that we had estimated. I don't know how much, but that's something that Mr. Finn may have a little bit of a handle on. In addition, there are some projects in there where there will be some savings. I'll give you one example. We have $15 million set aside for the vocational education facility. Well, it turns out that a gentleman that I know donated property to the county, donated a building and land to the county to use as we see fit. That happens to be in Golden Gate City. It's that white building that's empty there. Staff has evaluated that building. The building is structurally fine, needs to be remodeled. There's plenty of parking there because there's an agreement to have that whoever owns that building can use 200 parking spaces there. The school district has been contacted. They like that location. They like that building. And so instead of costing $15 million to build a building for a vocational education facility, it's probably going to be more like $5 million, maybe a little less, to renovate and provide what's needed for that facility. So there's going to be an opportunity to move some money around, is the point that I'm making. This $25 million for this project is very, very important for this community, and I'd hate to see us stumbling along because there's going to be an increase in cost. None of us want to spend more money than we have to, but there are some projects where, as pointed out by Mr. Finn on the Vanderbilt Beach Road, there's some projects where they cost more, but that doesn't diminish the need to go ahead and proceed with them. And so I think we may have some flexibility if there's a few $1 million in sales tax needed for that. I think we can sharpen our pencils and find it, quite frankly. So I don't know if there's been a motion to move this forward. If there hasn't, I'll make a motion to move this item forward.
Commissioner Hall's lit up. Commissioner Hall?
I just want to make a comment. You know, to kick this down the road or to allow it to go down the road another year, it kind of frustrates me. I mean, we're the county, we're the ones that are applying for the SDP approval, and then I'm reading, due to an unexpected delay. And on all these things we hear, due to supply chain issues, due to inflationary costs, it always seems like it costs the county money because of these things that happen. I would like to see our posture and our intensity become more purposeful in getting these things done so that it doesn't cost us money down the road, so that in a year from now, we're not reading, oh, due to this and due to that, we're exceeding the $25 million, and now we want the taxpayers to pay this. And I just want to go forward with a more business-like, you know, or an urgency to get this thing done. Commissioner Saunders said this project is important to this community. It was obvious. And so I would like to see our intensity and our purpose increase and become more purposeful and more driven to get these things done so that we don't have these kind of conversations later.
And if I may, sir, and I appreciate your comments, and they're right on. One of my pet peeves is frankly when we look at government bureaucracies and every change that all of us can see as plain as the nose on our face, they call unexpected or unplanned. In this case, I will say to you that there were substantial delays in achieving our zoning on the property. The zoning is a critical milestone in being able to achieve our SDP. So the zoning was necessary to complete the design. The design is necessary to complete the SDP. And if I may just add a bit more, the contract, as it deals with this particular time specification, was a little bit inartful in that it basically Siamesed the zoning date with the SDP date. Reasonably speaking, it should have been zoning, then 12 months from zoning to get the SDP. And effectively, that's what we're doing here after the fact.
You know what I would just like to see in these agendas when we have unexpected delays, or they're asking for the 5th extension, and I've said this before, a little bit more detail, like an extra sentence that defines it not only to us when we go over this agenda, but this agenda is released to the public. If I was, you know, Joe Smith, you know, Joe Johnson, whatever, you know, out in the community, and I wasn't following this as closely as we follow it, and I was just sort of perusing this, my takeaway would be exactly what Commissioner Hall is basically implying is, geez, this county, man, they kick the can on everything. They have an unexpected delay for this. If it said unexpected delay due to, you know, bats and arsenic, like we said on the golf course, right? Okay, you know, let's not hear bats and arsenic too many more times. That was a one-time deal, but there are some you know, extenuating circumstances. But also too, I'd like us to take the responsibility of saying if it was the county, you know, dropping the ball. I mean, we're not trying to throw people under the bus, but if we say, you know, we missed the deadline, or we you know, we didn't do something, let's be transparent to the public and also to all of us up here. You know, this one I know has a bunch of extenuating circumstances, and I agree with Commissioner Saunders. I don't want to delay this one anymore artificially, but a lot of good points have been, you know, brought up here that this one really needs to be monitored extremely closely. But I would second the motion, you know, to pass to approve the second amendment, unless anybody has any objection. So I have a motion and a second. I think we've all brought up great points that we're looking for, homework assignments from the county to keep us fully informed. But I have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye. Okay, passes 4-1.
Thank you, sir.
Where can we go next?
Commissioners, the remaining items are both to be heard no sooner than 1 p.m. We can go to staff communications if you feel like that's appropriate now, or we could take an early lunch or a little bit extra time for lunch and come back at 1, take care of those items, and move through the communications section of the agenda.
Let's do staff.
But I think we can go to staff. Let's make use of the time.
Sure, absolutely. So that brings us to item 15. Staff Commission General Communications. We can ask now about public comment on general topics not on the current or future agenda. And Troy, we can ask again at the end in case anyone's planning on coming in.
Sounds good.
Okay, so nobody now? Okay. We don't have any staff project updates, so that brings us to item 15C. That's Staff and Commission General Communications. I do have one item relative to our trip to the State Veterans Nursing Home. We have had a little change in plans, and we're now requesting a workshop on the State Veterans Nursing Home, the same day that you've all reserved on your calendars. That's for Thursday, May 25th in the afternoon from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock here in the boardroom. This is instead of all of us going on the road trip. This allows participation by the State Veteran Nursing Home representatives, allows for participation for the public and anybody that may want to that would not have been able or prudent to do, taking them to a nursing home. So with your
What time would we start that? I'm just looking at my calendar here.
3 o'clock. We had planned that whole day to be blocked. We do have another, code enforcement is in this room that day. So the earliest time we could be in here is at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And I don't know if Mr. Mullins has anything to add to that, but he's sitting back there. Okay.
Okay.
Have you sent out a memo to our aides to make sure that that's all made our calendar?
So your calendars were all reserved from basically 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night for us to all drive together over to the other coast and then come back. So we will re-verify with your, oh, here comes John. We'll re-verify with your aides, but as of my last check, nothing had changed with that. Hi, John.
Short answer is correct. Yes, we did send out a notice to your aides for the calendar purpose to let you know of the start time at 3 p.m. On that date and what the potential agenda would be. And as the county manager stated, this will allow the additional participation of representatives from the Department of Management Services, who will be the project managers. It will allow Easter Seals, who operates adult day healthcare facilities for FDVA, to also participate, including Orcutt Winslow, the architects that have designed many state veteran nursing homes across the country. They'll be on there as well, as will FDVA, to talk about funding and timeline next steps.
Can you send that out as a calendar invite? I think the email that you sent out was more of like informative, and it was giving us a heads up, but it wasn't a accept. So that sort of just makes sure it doesn't fall through the crack, on our calendars, if everybody's in agreement.
It's on my calendar.
Yeah, it's on mine, but it's on there sort of, I don't think it says, I don't think it's
sent
like.
it out both ways, but
Okay.
I'll double check.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'll be here.
Okay. All right, any questions on that? Okay. What else?
We do have the 2 committees that have been advertised, and I'll look at Mr. Klaskow too to fill in the blanks here, but we've had some inquiries about our citizen group for the Army Corps. We've received, and I'll look to the back of the room if Mr. French has anything to add, but I know that we have received many applications. They're being reviewed now and prioritized. That way they can come to you for your review. But I know you wanted an update on that. Is it moving forward? And we continue to I've been receiving emails, and you probably have too, about people that have submitted their names. Mr. French.
So the makeup of that group would be at least one person from every district, right? So we'd have representation, right? I'm sorry?
Total 7.
Yeah, and then some 2 alternates, and then, okay.
Could you make sure that there's a representative from the city of Naples on that? I know there are 2 at large, but
I know they asked.
We do have an application coming from the city of Naples that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all got that email, so
We
it's
do,
just a
and
matter of.
yeah, I think there was maybe a little confusion surrounding that email, but I believe that's what it was in reference to, and all of you are going to have the opportunity to look at those candidates and decide the makeup. So not only Commissioner Cowell's district, which is partially in the city of Naples, but there are also the opportunity for the 2 at large. I would assume the same for Commissioner LeCastro, as he represents
Marco.
Everglades.
No, Marco.
And
yeah.
Commissioner McDaniel, who represents Everglades. Now, we do a lot of legwork for Everglades just because of their size. We try to provide that technical assistance to them. But want to make this an inclusive process. I'm looking to Mr. French to see what type of visibility he has on those applications.
One of the things I just want to make a comment, and it's just, we haven't seen any applications yet. But, when you put a committee like that together, you want some cohesion and some, different experience levels. But we also, this is just me talking, you got to make sure that you don't put sort of, a General Norman Schwarzkopf on the committee and then a bunch of citizens, so that you have 2 or 3 people that have very big roles in the county, and they can tend to sort of overshadow the discussion because they have some sort of personal interest. So that person sending a representative of a particular group or district or what have you, but that's what I'm going to be looking for. It's like, folks that have the background, the depth, so that they can have good discussion, but you don't have 2 or 3 people that stand out as extremely senior, higher level folks that could tend to maybe dominate that conversation. And that's hypothetical. You would hope everybody would be professionals, but like you said, I think we're getting a lot of applications, so we have great choice here. In the end, I don't think it's a matter of picking each, individual folks that we think would be good, but looking at the entire team and say, are we really putting an all-star team together that represents, a great cross-section of not only the county, but also would work well together, and there's not sort of 2 or 3 standouts that might be sort of, maybe one of these things is not like the others, type of thing. Just a thought.
Understood. And the other thing is these will be public meetings. So while you're only choosing 7, it doesn't eliminate the ability for any interested party to participate. We also are going to have an opportunity to continue to interact with the board, with the core, with our CAC, and with our TDC.
Right.
So there are multiple places where the public can engage, including this committee. So I just want to keep getting that message out there that this is meant to be an inclusive process. This is not meant to leave anybody out, no matter what their stance is on any part of these projects or not. There's space for everybody to participate.
They don't have to be part of the committee
No.
to speak.
They do not.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Well, and that goes right in line with, when are we going to close the portal for applicants?
We're still waiting for a application from District 1, but we can close it.
We have no applicants from District 1? No. Okay, I'll take care of that.
Well, so I would like a term to be put on the portal so that we close it. And if we don't have anybody from any one particular district, I don't want to hold it waiting for someone. It's imperative. The rationale behind the creation of this group was to disseminate the truth. When we're already being bombarded with non-truths and misnomers and fear-mongering that's going on throughout the community. And I want that to be quelled as much as is physically possible. And the creation of this committee as an oversight to disseminate the truth is imperative.
And when would you like us to bring it to the board? Because then I'll backdate the portal deadline.
I would like us to pick at our next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking, and even though you're saying like you haven't gotten anything, so I'll work with you on District 1 to make sure that we do have some applicants, but then I think.
Just have her call my aide.
Yep, got it.
And the same goes, you mentioned 2 committees, and that's the
East of
other is
951.
2.0.
2.0.
East of 951 2.0, and I'd like that to come to the board as well, so that Commissioner Saunders and I think we should be the lead on that organization as far as picking the folks that are going to serve on that with ratification from the board. So.
And I'll look to the county attorney on that one. He may have to update you on where we are with applications for that and when it closes. I'm less up to date on that than I am on the core.
Yeah, I don't know that we have that many applications, sir.
Okay.
I can get you the number.
All right.
Commissioners, if I might, for the record, Jamie French with Growth Management and Community Development, your department head. Currently, we have 13 applications, and we are doing exactly that as we've
13 applications
for the Army Corps.
For the Army Corps.
And so currently we have active. We'll wait, so that'll be 14. And then what we are prepared to do next week, Chris Mason and I, as well as Howard Critchfield, who's leading this project, we're actually going to go through and we're going to point out the benefits for each candidate on what they might offer. And I do know that we did have a couple commissioners that may interest Commissioner Hall at least for Pelican Bay, because we do know that they've got a great deal of coastline, and of course they're going to be vitally important to this process, their input, as well as they're going to have a heavy level of interest. So we will bring that back to you at the next meeting for your consideration with a staff update. And again, we've got both a professional engineer, long-term with Chris Mason as your resiliency and community planning director, and myself and Mr. Posey, Ms. Cook will all be very much involved with this process on how there's added value for different candidates from both the technical aspects, community aspects, but also the environmental aspects.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yeah, and if you would give me an update on the East 951 2.0, I'll announce it tomorrow night at evening with the commissioner, and and then Commissioner Saunders, if you would also as well let out to your folks. We'll see if we can't get that wrapped up as well.
MIA tells me there are 8 applications.
8? Okay.
And with that, commissioners, we've named Parker Klopp, who is a he's a principal planner, planner 3 with us. Good news about Parker. Parker actually grew up here. I've been here a long time. I've known Parker since he was a little kid because his mom, Wendy, works over with our Human Services Department, but he's a fine young planner. He works for Mr. Posey, and he'll be working along with Ms. Cook, myself, and Cormac and Sarah. So we'll be there as his backstop. But we think you're going to be awfully pleased with Parker going forward as the liaison for your 2.0 East of 951.
Very good.
Okay.
That's all we have from County Manager's Office, County Attorney.
Nothing, thank you.
Rick?
Okay. Yes, sir. Good. Commissioner Hall.
I was just going to say, is the 16th, next Tuesday, too soon to close the portal so that we have it for when the agenda comes out?
For
the Army Corps of Engineers?
Army Corps?
We're going to bring my understanding is we're bringing the executive summary for the board appointments at the next meeting, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to.
We'll close the portal. We'll keep the portal open to the last possible moment for that, so you get all the applications you can get.
Good.
And we can review these pretty quickly.
Okay.
Chair, to you.
Okay. Want to break for lunch? Or we got what else?
It's up to you if you wanted to go through the commissioner's correspondence first, and then we'll break for lunch, or if you want to save that. We're kind of
No,
We're halfway
you're saying the closing comments from the commissioners?
Mhm.
I'll save that for the end because there might be some other things that happen or whatnot. So why don't we break for lunch and come back here at 12:45? Okay.
1 o'clock.
I'm sorry?
Not-
Anything till 1?
Yeah, we don't have anything till 1.
Okay. I thought it was, okay, so we'll come back at 1.
Sorry, Chair.
All right.
He gave us an
I was just giving you a few minutes to get organized.